It's time to memorize the 12 pairs of cranial nerves. They are all classed as either sensory, motor, or mixed, meaning they contain both sensory and motor neurons. They're numbered using Roman numerals 1 through 12. You might want to spend a little bit of time with this, although you'll never have to be able to label a diagram like this. So if you memorize this sentence, you'll be able to memorize the order of the nerves. O, once one takes the anatomy final, very good vacations are heavenly. O is for olfactory. The second O is for optic. The third O is for oculomotor, and so on. And then for whether they are sensory, motor, or mixed, you would learn, some say marry money, but my brother says brilliant brains matter more, where S is for the sensory. So you can see that the first two nerves, olfactory and optic, are both sensory cranial nerves. Oculomotor, with that word motor in it, it makes sense that that third one is a motor neuron. Sensations carried by sensory pathways in the central nervous system begin with transduction at a sensory receptor. Well, a transducer is a device that converts a physical signal to an electrical signal. So transduction in this case is the conversion of the stimulus to a change in the membrane potential. Some terminology: sensory receptors are specialized cells. General senses are for temperature, pain, touch, pressure, vibration, proprioception, which is position. And sensory pathways begin at peripheral receptors and end within the central nervous system. A sensation is information carried by a sensory pathway, and perception is the conscious awareness of that sensation. The receptive field is the area monitored by a single receptor cell. So if you have done the 2-point discrimination test, where you determine on your skin how far apart 2 points must be in order to distinguish them as 2 points, you were measuring the size of receptive fields. The larger the receptor field, the less able to localize the stimulus. So there are certain basic events that occur along the sensory and motor pathways, and of course we're going to begin with depolarization of the receptor. The stimulus results in a graded change in the receptor cell, or transduction. If the receptor cell depolarizes the threshold, an action potential is triggered. A greater depolarization results from greater frequency of action. A greater depolarization results in greater frequency of action potentials. The sensation is propagated over a labeled line, and a labeled line is axons that are carrying information about one type of stimulus. The central nervous system interprets the stimulus based on which line carries it. Central nervous system processing occurs at every synapse along the labeled line, and the line may branch repeatedly. The central nervous system can trigger motor responses, for example, an involuntary motor pathway, such as a reflex, and voluntary motor pathway. Only about 1% of arriving sensations are relayed to the primary sensory cortex, where perceptions occur. A voluntary response can supplement the reflexive response.